I found out my husband was cheating on me on a Tuesday afternoon. Not because he confessed. Not because someone warned me. And definitely not because he felt guilty. I found out because of a message that wasn't meant for me. At that time, I had been married to Daniel for almost 11 years. We had built what looked like a beautiful life from the outside. A comfortable house. A successful business. Family vacations. Smiling photos on social media. People used to tell me how lucky I was. And honestly, I believed them. Daniel wasn't perfect, but I thought he loved me. I trusted him completely. I never checked his phone. Never questioned where he went. Never imagined he could betray me. Why would I? I had spent over a decade supporting him through every challenge. When his business struggled, I worked extra hours to help pay the bills. When he wanted to take risks, I stood beside him. When he celebrated victories, I celebrated with him. I thought we were a team. But what I didn't know that day was that the man I trusted most had been living a completely different life. It started with a notification. Daniel had left his tablet on the kitchen counter before rushing to a meeting. The screen lit up while I was making coffee. Normally, I wouldn't even look. But the message preview appeared before I could turn away. Last night was amazing. I already miss you. My heart stopped. For a second, I convinced myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was sent to the wrong person. Maybe there was something I wasn't understanding. But deep inside, I already knew. My hands were shaking as I opened the message. The conversation stretched back months. Hundreds of messages. Photos. Plans. Promises. Words that should have belonged to me. And then I saw something even worse. This wasn't a recent mistake. This wasn't a brief affair. Daniel had been seeing another woman for nearly 4 years. 4 years. While I cooked his meals. While I sat beside him at family gatherings. While I defended him whenever anyone criticized him. He was building memories with someone else. I remember collapsing into a chair because my legs could no longer hold me. I felt sick. Humiliated. Broken. The worst part wasn't even the affair itself. It was realizing that every memory from those 4 years suddenly felt fake. Every anniversary. Every vacation. Every promise. Everything was contaminated by lies. But as I continued reading, I discovered something that would change everything. Daniel wasn't just cheating. He was planning to leave me. And according to the messages, he intended to walk away with a large portion of the business that I had helped build. The business that existed because of sacrifices I had made. The business where I had invested my savings. The business where I had worked countless unpaid hours. And suddenly, my heartbreak transformed into something else. Determination. Because if Daniel thought he could betray me for years and simply walk away without consequences, he had no idea who he was dealing with. For weeks, I said nothing. That was the hardest part. Every morning I woke up beside him. Every evening I listened to his stories. Every night he kissed my forehead and told me he loved me. And I had to pretend I believed him. Inside, I was falling apart. But I needed answers. I started quietly gathering information. Financial records. Business documents. Emails. Contracts. The more I discovered, the more shocked I became. Daniel wasn't only lying about the affair. He had been moving money. Small amounts at first. Then larger amounts. Accounts I didn't know existed. Investments made without my knowledge. Assets hidden under different names. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The man who once promised to protect me was preparing for an escape plan. He expected me to remain the trusting wife while he secured his future. One evening, I overheard him talking on the phone. "I'll handle everything soon," he said. "She won't see it coming." Those words stayed with me all night. She won't see it coming. Daniel thought I was weak. He thought my kindness meant ignorance. He thought loyalty made me blind. But pain has a strange way of changing people. And slowly, the woman who had spent years supporting everyone else began protecting herself. I contacted an attorney. Then a financial investigator. Then an accountant. For the first time in years, I stopped thinking about Daniel's future and started thinking about mine. The evidence grew stronger every week. My attorney was stunned. The hidden accounts. The financial transfers. The deliberate attempts to conceal assets. Everything was documented. Everything was traceable. Meanwhile, Daniel remained completely unaware. He continued lying. Continued cheating. Continued planning his perfect exit. Then one day, he finally made his move. He sat across from me at the dining table with an expression that almost looked rehearsed. "We need to talk," he said. I already knew what was coming. "I don't think this marriage is working anymore." The words sounded so calm. So controlled. As if 11 years could be summarized in a single sentence. Then he delivered the performance he had probably practiced many times. He spoke about growing apart. About finding himself. About wanting happiness. Not once did he mention the affair. Not once did he mention the lies. Not once did he mention the money. I listened quietly. And when he finished, I simply nodded. The confusion on his face was almost amusing. He expected tears. Arguments. Desperation. Instead, I smiled and said, "Okay." For the first time, Daniel looked nervous. Because the script wasn't going the way he expected. And what he didn't know was that his biggest surprise was still waiting for him. A few weeks later, the legal process began. Daniel walked into the negotiations looking confident. Almost arrogant. I could tell he believed he was about to win. Then my attorney started presenting evidence. One document after another. One account after another. One transfer after another. The confidence disappeared from his face. I watched his expression change. Confusion. Shock. Fear. His attorney kept flipping through pages. Daniel barely spoke. For years, he had controlled the narrative. Now the truth was speaking for itself. Then came the affair evidence. Messages. Photos. Timelines. Records. Everything. The room became silent. His carefully constructed image collapsed within minutes. The man who thought he had outsmarted everyone suddenly looked completely lost. But the consequences didn't stop there. Business partners learned the truth. Investors learned the truth. Friends learned the truth. Even some family members who had always defended him finally saw who he really was. His reputation didn't disappear overnight. But the trust people had placed in him certainly did. And trust is much harder to rebuild than money. In the end, the outcome was very different from what Daniel had planned. The assets he tried to hide were discovered. The agreements he thought would protect him failed. The future he had secretly designed collapsed under the weight of his own decisions. As for the woman he cheated with, she eventually left too. Apparently, once she saw how easily Daniel could betray someone he claimed to love, she started wondering whether he would eventually do the same to her. And honestly, she was probably right. Meanwhile, I began rebuilding my life. Not immediately. Healing takes time. There were days when the pain felt unbearable. Days when I questioned everything. Days when I mourned the future I thought I would have. But little by little, I found peace. I rediscovered who I was outside of the marriage. I built new friendships. Created new goals. And learned something I wish I had understood years earlier. The truth always has a way of finding the light. People can hide lies for a while. They can manipulate stories. They can pretend to be someone they're not. But eventually, reality catches up. Daniel thought his affair had destroyed me. Instead, it revealed me. It forced me to discover strength I didn't know I possessed. And today, when I look back at those years, I no longer feel anger. I feel gratitude. Because sometimes the greatest betrayal becomes the beginning of the greatest freedom. And that was the truth that changed everything.